What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right, man. I'm going to talk about that PBC, ESPN, DAZN, Showtime, and talk about Al Haymon and what's going on in boxing, and something that I've noticed, and that is that I had a suspicion when the Fox deal was announced that Al Haymon and the PBC would become the epicenter of boxing. And after watching how the first month of the year has gone by and watching the ESPN card and listening to what Max Kellerman, the interview Max Kellerman gave that's on ES News, I'm convinced that we're at that point. Just over this weekend, if you listen to what Max Kellerman said and you listen to what Eddie Hearn said, it is becoming just abundantly clear that outside of maybe, Canelo Alvarez's independent deal that he has with DAZN, that the PBC and the Al Haymon's premier boxing champion is creating a situation for many people where if they don't do business with the PBC, they're never going to get, the fighters aren't going to get where they want to get. And it appears to me, and I'll explain why that is. Now, before I do that, though, I want to say welcome back to the channel if you're a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, I would hope that you would accept my invitation to subscribe, and by hitting the bell icon and the subscribe button and the bell icon so you can be notified when we release more videos. And also, I'd hope you'd attend the live streams that we do on Monday through Friday, typically sometime Saturday, right around 10:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. Now, this is what I'm going to tell you, man. I believe that the PBC, with the deal that they have with Fox and the deal that they have with Showtime, and the amount of fighters that they have in the essential weight classes in boxing, are creating a situation where it's very difficult for any other promotional outfit or any fighter that is not with them to become a quote unquote major star without dealing with the PBC. And to me, it reminds me of Don King. When Don King controlled the heavyweight division, and by controlling the heavyweight division, he pretty much controlled boxing. The controlled the premier division in boxing. But this one now is centering around the welterweights, around the lightweights, around the heavyweights, even branching off into offering fights in the UK, definitely in the 154-pound division. But just because of the raw number of fighters and the high number of up-and-coming American fighters, it's really becoming a situation where, and also their control of the time slots, how many time slots they have throughout the course of the year between those two networks. It's really becoming a situation where these guys have to deal with the PBC, and I'm wondering if it's a case of, chickens coming home to roost. And really, these promoters are going to have to change, or for the short term, at the very least, the ones that are opposing the PBC and were filing lawsuits on the PBC, these guys are going to have to change their tune, man, in the way that they deal with people, or really risk their fighters, never really getting to the pinnacle of their careers, not getting to where they could get because they're such excellent fighters. And I'm going to go through the examples of them. Now, the thing that got me thinking about this was what was said by Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman was interviewed by a bunch of people. The tape is on ES News. It was after the Sergey Kovalev-Alvarez fight, which was on ESPN Plus. And he was talking about the Oscar Valdez fight. But the question started going off, of course, into what he thought about Mikey Garcia, Errol Spence, what he thought about, Lomachenko. But see, when he talked about what he thought about Errol Spence, Mikey Garcia, he started talking about Lomachenko and saying how he thought that Mikey was taking a less risky fight by fighting Errol Spence Jr. than fighting Lomachenko. And because it was easier to make, because they're both in the same promotional outfit. If he lost to Errol Spence, he wouldn't lose as much ground in his career as if he lost to Lomachenko. All of that, and how he was then pushing. Then Max Kellerman then started pushing the idea of a fight between Vasyl Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez. Shout out to Teofimo Lopez. I think Teofimo Lopez is an excellent fighter. Looks really good, but that's my look at the comparison between those two fights. Vasyl Lomachenko fighting Mikey Garcia isn't going to happen, and because Mikey Garcia doesn't want to deal with Bob Arum, Mikey Garcia wants to fight with the PBC for various reasons. Lomachenko then can do an in-house fight against Teofimo Lopez. Now, what would a fight with Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko get for Lomachenko? Another payday. That's it. Another payday. It's not as if it's going to vault him into some superstar status. It won't. And on top of it, it really might be a situation where he gets fed to Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez is a 22-year-old kid, 21, 22-year-old kid, maybe 23 now, I'm not sure, but right in the early 20s. And he is not going to be at 135 pounds for the majority of his career. He's going to be at 140, 147 pounds. He is much bigger than Vasyl Lomachenko. Now, Vasyl Lomachenko might win the fight. You know, he's a very, very good fighter. But that is the risk, that risk-reward scenario that people bring up is not there for Vasyl Lomachenko. Vasyl Lomachenko is over 30 years old now. Vasyl Lomachenko should be looking for that Manny Pacquiao fight or that Mikey Garcia fight or something like that, but it's not there for him, for ESPN, at ESPN, because there are even the other most of the up-and-coming fighters that could move into that range are Gervonta Davis moving from 130 to 135, which would be a better fight for Lomachenko than Teofimo Lopez, from the size of the size of the physical stature, the size of the fighting style of Gervonta Davis. It's a safer fight than Teofimo Lopez, and it's a bigger name, but he can't get it unless he deals with the PBC. Same thing could go for a guy like Devin Haney, even though Devin Haney isn't quite there. But if you look at Lomachenko, the two biggest fights that he could have, both were with PBC fighters. Now you go up to welterweight and you look at Terrence Crawford, the other example that Max Kellerman brought up. He's completely surrounded by PBC fighters. And if they don't want to fight him, they can all fight each other. And then there's no marquee fight for Terrence Crawford either. Then you look at what's going on with the heavyweight division. If you looked at Fox News, Fox Sports this weekend during the Super Bowl, and this might be hard for people that are just have 2017 stuck in their head. And Deontay Wilder has grown, his profile's grown to the point where he doesn't even feel like he needs to answer calls from Anthony Joshua. He could have multiple pay-per-views lined up all the way up into 2020. And Anthony Joshua was in a situation where Anthony Joshua has to keep fighting recycled fighters in the UK or come to the United States and fight Jarrell Big Baby Miller. What happens if Al Haymon is able to sign 2 or 3 more heavyweights? He's even making a move at Dillian White. So what I'm seeing is, and so that's just the fighters. That's the lightweight division, the welterweight division, and the heavyweight division. It's clearly like that in the lightweight division. It's locked down in the welterweight division. It's getting there in the heavyweight. It's getting there in the heavyweight division, especially since they have Fox, who's really, really pushing Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder's is on pre-Super Bowl shows getting interviewed by Michael Vick. He's on ESPN, and like I said, he could wind up running his career out against Tyson Fury, and man, it might even be Dominic Breazeale. And what's AJ going to do coming to the United States if Al Haymon and the PBC lock up 1, 2, 3 more heavyweights, which I expect them to do. I expect them to lock up other heavyweights in the United States because they have the fight dates, they have the fight dates, they have the money, they have the networks. You have Top Rank locked up into ESPN fights. You have Golden Boy locked into DAZN fights. And you have the rest of the promoters just catching where catch can. But the PBC has Showtime, they have Fox Sports 1, and ITV in the UK just on some secondary stuff. But the point of the matter is that this might not necessarily be a good thing if the PBC's fighter first mantra doesn't get them into fighting the guys that fight for those other promoters. Now I know that I believe that it's a headache, and I understand why people wouldn't want to deal with Bob Arum, why people wouldn't want to deal with Eddie Hearn. But the truth of the matter is, though, that there's really good fights out there that if that bridge is not able to be crossed, it really does let down the fans. Now, the PBC is fighters first. I'm fan first. I do want to see Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Crawford, Sean Porter, Terrence Crawford. I don't want to watch Terrence Crawford fight Amir Khan. Lomachenko's an excellent fighter. I would have loved to seen him fight Mikey Garcia. I'd love to see him fight Gervonta Davis. And I'm hoping that it doesn't, because nobody's perfect, right? And when Al Haymon came out with the PBC, he had a bunch of lawsuits dropped on him by competitors. He had a lot of competitors hating on him. All of the people now who have to deal with him. What's his name? Oscar De La Hoya, Bob Arum, Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn was out there, bad mouthing him, when the PBC was starting. It's on tape. You can go check that out. But now, in order for these guys to do what they want to do, they thought that they might be able to work around him, that he would just go away, spreading rumors in the media about the PBC falling apart. All that stuff went by the wayside, and here we are stuck, right? Here they are now stuck with having to deal with this 800-pound gorilla in the room. And that 800-pound gorilla is Al Haymon and the PBC. I'm hoping for the good of the fighters that they work with, that they understand that really is the truth. One of the things that don't make me feel like they might not get that is the way that Eddie Hearn would talk about Al Haymon. Talk about the people that work about Al Haymon. When he said that Shelly Finkel was this arrogant, effer. And why didn't ESPN say, hey, Shirley Winkle, why didn't you return these calls, Shirley Winkle? Why are you calling this man Shirley Winkle, but at the same time thinking you're going to get a meeting with him? And why are you in a scenario where you are trying to, if what he says is true and he's leaving 6 and 8 messages for him, dude, something's telling you that he's somebody you need. I have a hard time believing that Eddie Hearn is going to be calling somebody 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and he doesn't need them. So I'm just hoping for the good of boxing that the competitors with the PBC recognize and respond appropriately to what's going on. And that, because it seems to me, I've never met Al Haymon, never heard him speak, never read anything he's written, any of that. I just look from the way outside looking in. He seems as if he's a reasonable guy, but he also seems like he's a very, 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 very capable guy. And he set his eyes on achieving a goal. And when he signed when that PBC with Fox deal got signed, he achieved that goal. And now between Fox and Showtime, he's got enough fight dates and enough money with licensing fees to have 3 fight cards a month throughout the whole year, plus pay-per-views, which means any of these fighters that are working with these promoters, well, if they don't rely upon the PBC to get to the fighters that they need to fight to grow their name, their fight dates are going to be competing with other fight cards with other fighters and splitting the attention. So, man, I'm hoping that these guys just, man, stop acting like this battle ain't over, man. It might not be over, that the war might not be over, but that battle is over. The PBC has laid down a structure, has signed enough fighters and have enough fight dates where they have to deal with them. And I'm hoping that they start dealing with them in a respectful manner, a manner that is realistic and really does respond to the boxing landscape as it is, and get these very, very good fighters who are not with the PBC some quality fight dates with PBC fighters. But you're not going to do that by bad mouthing and acting like you got something over their head when you don't. So anyway, it is what it is. I'm keeping my eye out for it, man. But honestly, I'm really hoping that the PBC will, man, that they'll start that these big fights that we want to see can happen. The Lomachenko, Gervonta Davis, obviously Terrence Crawford versus whoever, Canelo Alvarez versus Charlo, right? Because that's the one division that the DAZN looks like they're controlling. So with Demetrius Andrade and Daniel Jacobs, Canelo Alvarez, but the PBC is even pushing towards a Gennady Golovkin. And if they're able to get Gennady Golovkin, and then, hey, man, that's a big money fight that they're willing to put on pay-per-view, that can cause problems over there as well. So anyway, I'm just hoping that people start working together and we can see these great fights, because I would love not to talk about the politics all the time, but talk about the actual fights taking place. And with that, I'm out. Peace.